The ability to use language is one of the things that makes us human. Language is the backbone of human society. It allows us to share the joy and pain of everyday life and to share knowledge and culture across generations. While other species cannot learn human language even with years of intensive training, all humans, with the proper input, are able to acquire and use language with little effort. Children pick up language at an amazing rate. By the time they are 2 years old, most children already know many words, and some know as many as 500. By the time they are 4 years old, most children are able to understand and use language in much the same way adults do. Of course, a child isn't just born with a language ready to go. As with the other brain systems we've talked about, a child's early experience builds the areas of the brain that support good language skills. For most people, the brain areas most involved in language processing are the frontal and temporal areas of the left hemisphere. This is true whether a language is spoken or whether it's a signed language, like American Sign Language. Signed languages like ASL use the same brain systems and show similar patterns of development as spoken languages. The role of experience in shaping the brain systems important for language starts very early. Evidence suggests that a child starts learning something about language while still in the womb. Studies have shown that at birth, babies already recognize their mother's voice on the day they are born.
For the first several months of life, babies really are incredible language learners. They can actually tell the difference between two sounds from any language in the world. That's something that neither you nor I can do.
It's in the first 9 months of life that we see how important language experience is for children. This is when the language children hear from their parents and others allows them to zero in on the sounds in their native language. But it isn't just the sounds that infants are hearing. When they hear the same language sounds from a recording, from a CD or TV, they don't zero in on those sounds like they do when the sounds are coming from a live human interaction.
So the social interaction between parents and children, not just the sounds they're hearing, is very important for children's development of language. And as children are zeroing in on the sounds of their native language, they also begin to understand that we use different words for different things and actions in the world.
Soon, children are learning several words a day. Even before they can speak, children understand a lot of language. Babies who are only 8 months old show a preference for words they have heard frequently in stories. We actually use the techniques described in the introduction to see how the brain changes and becomes more adult-like as children begin to understand and use the structure of language more like adults do. But these brain changes do not happen automatically when children reach a certain age. In fact, the changes we see in the brain only happen when children actually learn more words and more complex sentence structure. And this is where the experiences a child has are very important in shaping early language learning. Some very interesting research has shown just how important the right kinds of language experiences are for building good language skills. Researchers have found that children whose parents talk to them more often and with more adult-like words and longer sentences have larger vocabularies and are better able to use and understand more advanced language structure.
Look at his face. Look at how round his face is. See? That's perfectly round.
But it isn't just the way parents talk to their children that is important. Research conducted in the Brain Development Lab at the University of Oregon looked at the language skills of children whose parents were in a special program. This program taught them to encourage their children to talk a lot and to make a special effort to listen to their children and take turns when they had a conversation. These children, compared to children whose parents did not get this training, had improved language skills after just 8 weeks. And it isn't just parents. The language experience children have with other adults is important too. Another study looked at children in classrooms with preschool teachers who used longer and more complicated sentences in their speech than other teachers did, and found that these children were better able to use and understand longer and more complicated sentences after just 9 months. Reading and sharing books is another very important type of language experience which helps build good brain structures for language. Many studies have shown the importance of reading and sharing books. Children whose parents share books with them every day have larger vocabularies and better language skills than children whose parents don't share books with them as often. As the world continues to become a smaller place, Many people are finding it important to be able to communicate in more than one language. Being able to speak more than one language is a very valuable skill which helps children in many ways.
While many people think it's not a good idea to start teaching children a second language when they're very young, a lot of research has shown that this isn't the case. It's okay, and it's even a good idea, for children to start learning more than one language at the same time. In fact, most findings suggest that when it comes to teaching a child a second, or even third language, the earlier children learn, the better.
Springer de ner för backen. Men det går för fort.
Children won't become confused with more than one language, and in fact, they will speak a second language better, and with less of an accent than children who start learning a second language at a later age. This also means that children who are primarily learning English at school, but who may hear other languages in the home, will be just fine switching between the two languages. So it's okay and even a good idea for a child to speak one language at home and a different language in school. So the recent move in the United States towards teaching foreign languages in elementary school, or even preschool, is a positive step in helping children prepare for the future and is well supported by research. So just as we have seen in other segments of this DVD, for language learning, there seems to be a sensitive period when it is easier for people to master a second language, especially the sounds and structure of that language. Remember, research shows that all of these differences in language knowledge, from the words and structure of a first language to learning a second language, mean differences in a child's brain structure. These research results show that the experience that parents and other caregivers give children with language early in life will have a profound and lasting impact on the child's brain. So what does this research mean for you as a parent? How can you provide the type of language experience for your child that will lead to better knowledge and use of language? Well, the research reviewed here suggests that there are several things you can do with your child which will help. Talk a lot with your child, and don't be afraid to sometimes use more complex language than your child is using. When your child asks you a question, try to give a full explanation and ask your child questions to encourage a discussion. Read to and share books with your child every day. Consider encouraging your child to learn a second language as early as possible. There are a lot of resources in our society, such as books, playgrounds, and school programs where your child can get exposure to a second language. So, as with the other brain systems we've talked about, the evidence suggests that there are optimal periods for the effects of language experience on brain development. For language, this evidence suggests that the rule is, the earlier, the better.